What's up, everybody? Here we are again at the Energy is Love podcast. Third or fourth week of the podcast. I'm not quite sure. We're almost coming up on a month and everything's going beautifully well. I love doing it. Everything about this experience has been amazing. I love the people that I'm getting to meet. My favorite part is we've got listeners in Hungary, Romania, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Russia, New Zealand, Colombia, Canada. All these different countries are starting to pop up where people are tuning in and listening and downloading the episodes. And that's incredible. I absolutely love that aspect of it. So thank you, everybody out there. That listener out there in Hungary, thank you. That guy in New Zealand, I appreciate it. Colombia, I sure hope you understand what I'm saying because I don't speak Spanish, but thank you for listening. We have to thank our sponsors for the podcast, Crystal Water Float Spa, located in Twilla, Utah. Go online and find them, crystalwaterfloat.com. Go on Facebook and find them. Their Facebook is Crystal Water Float Spa. Crawl in that tank of salt water, lay back and relax. Heal your mind, your body, your spirit, your soul. Spiritually, it's one of the best things that's ever happened to me, and I love that I get to float. And I love that I get a float at Crystal Water Float Spa. So go check him out. We also got to thank the Bryman. The Bryman's been sponsoring small businesses for the past 10 years, and the podcast wouldn't be what it is today without the Bryman. Become a sponsor of the show. Contact us, email us at energyislovepodcast@gmail.com, or go online to our Facebook page, Energy is Love Podcast. Let us know. We want to help. We want to get your message out. We want to spread the word that you've got to share. We want to expand everybody's mind and everybody's experiences. So come be a sponsor of the show. Contact us and find out more information. If you want to donate money to the podcast, we have a GoFundMe set up. You can either go to GoFundMe.com, search us out, or just go to our Facebook page where we've got it linked. Next month, we're going to be devoting an entire episode to your questions. So if you've been listening and enjoying the podcast, and maybe some things have been kind of percolating in the back of your mind, now's the time to reach out. Contact us. Let us know what questions you have. Go online to our Facebook page and message us. Or if you want to email us those questions, you can do that as well. I think my wife's actually going to sit down with me for that episode, and we'll talk a little bit about our journey and our experience and the way that we work with energy. We're professional intuitive energy practitioners, and so now's your chance to get some of those energy-related, spirituality-related, floating-related questions out there, and my wife and I'll sit down and answer all of them, and that'll be a really fun episode. I'm looking forward to that. We love doing the Energy is Love podcast. We love our listeners. We love the fact that we're all across the globe now. Whatever episode's coming up, you guys are going to enjoy it. I guarantee it. The podcast for what? The universe. Namaste. On today's episode of the Energy is Love podcast, we got the opportunity to sit down with Om McManus. I met Om at one of the festivals that my wife and I were participants at, and Om was in the booth next to us with a group of people. Om is a massage therapist. He practices energy work in a variety of different ways. Om is part of Bristol Cabins, which is located up in Lava Hot Springs, Idaho. Not only does he live there, but he works with clients there and sees different people and does different things there. He's a really interesting guy, and he had some really unique perspectives. One of the things I think it's important for people to remember is that in the realm of spirituality and energy, even just in life in general, people have their own viewpoints and their own perspectives when it comes to things. And that's kind of the neat thing. And I love getting to meet new and interesting, unique people that think about things in a different way. It helps me in my journey and in my process to expand my mind. And that's the intention of the podcast, is to kind of spread that out there. So Om was a super interesting, cool guy, and some really unique, different, at times bizarre, but that's okay because everything's just energy in the end. And this is the Energy is Love podcast. So everybody enjoy this episode with Om McManus.
You're listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is love.
The Energy is the Love podcast.
The Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is love.
The Energy is Love podcast.
The podcast for the universe.
The Energy is Love podcast.
What's up, everybody? Today on the Energy is Love podcast, I have a special guest sitting down before me. His name is Om McManus. Om traveled all the way from Idaho to come out and be on the show today. Thank you very much, and how are you?
My pleasure. I am exquisite. Thank you.
So I met you last month. It was at the Infinite Possibilities Consciousness Festival Expo. I always forget the names of all of them, but it was the one that was held up in Ogden, and that's where we met.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I had the pleasure of being in the booth right next to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So first off, tell me a little bit about, there's a lot of things that I want to talk to you about, but give me your introduction as far as who the heck Om is and where you originate from.
Well, that's really an involved question. My path through life has been to undo a lot of the dark deeds that those behind our government and above them, energetically and spiritually, et cetera, have perpetrated on this planet. So I do know that I was born in Ohio somewhere. At some point when I was about 2 to 3 years old, I was kidnapped really, from my birth family and placed in another family. So from there, it's like, came out to Utah and lived with this family until probably about 2 or 3 years ago, when, me being who I am, I've taken a shamanic path through life, and part of being a shaman is revealing truth where there have been lies or illusion. And it just, at that time, it just really sunk in, hey, these people are not your family. And they're also, treating you in a way, they've been treating you in a very abusive way. And it's just time to release that relationship. So, I just keep asking questions through my heart and listening to spirit and going with the answers I receive.
You totally got to go into that more. So you're born in Ohio is what you said?
Yes.
And when you're about 2 or 3 years old, you're essentially kidnapped.
Yes.
So what the hell happened? Like, tell me about that. What do you, obviously, first off, do you remember any of that as a kid that young?
I do have a clear memory of the day that this happened. I was in a stroller. My mother had me at the park, and these guys in black suit just walked up, scooped me up out of the chair, started running with me. I could remember hearing my mom's screams, and I was taken to the back of some sort of vehicle. And, I just discovered this, a couple months ago. That was actually my biological father. He'd been blackmailed into giving me up for these black op types of programs.
Really?
Yes.
That's super interesting. So they brought you from Ohio to Utah, as far as you can remember?
Well, they placed me with this other family. So the father of the woman who raised me, her husband, they had 2 children together. He was also involved in these black ops projects, and both of his sons were involved in the projects. The younger of the 2, whom I was chosen to replace, was killed in some sort of accident. Instead of the usual cover-up, it was like his own fault or anything, they just decided to put in a double.
Like a replacement kid.
Yes.
Wow.
And so, as far as I'm aware, this woman is unaware that anything had happened. There's, just looking back at my life, there was just moments where it was like, I could see in her face or read in her aura, it was just like, okay, this kid really looks like my child, but there's something that's just not right. I can't really put my finger on it.
Yeah, there has to be some part of you that would know or sense or realize that.
Oh, yeah, as any good mother would be.
So that's how you were brought up and raised? Like, do you have portions of your memory and going back and looking at it where you also felt like, because I'm trying to think in my own space, if I'm 2 or 3 years old, the memories that I have from that time period are very vague and kind of convoluted, and they don't start to really kind of solidify until I'm, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. So do you have, did you always know growing up that you weren't in the family that you were supposed to be in, or how did that go?
I think that it was a very vague awareness of that. So keep in mind that these shadow government types have technology and also mind control techniques at their disposal that would effectively erase the memory of being in one place and make it seem like, okay, so this is where I'm supposed to be.
Just make it seem like it was the norm.
Yeah, because, as you're asking this question and I'm tuning in my feelings about it, it's like, I just feel like I was really disoriented, really drugged up, and I probably was, because there was other things going on. Like, so, we hear about people being abducted by aliens, by these gray bobbly head things, and not all of them were actually extraterrestrial. Some of them were just these government types dressing up like this. So it's like, hey, alien visitation, when really it was just them.
Yeah.
So I would be taken from my bed either physically or, they have a way of transporting someone through their DNA signature. So, think like the Star Trek transporters. And taking him to different places. And so I underwent a lot of mental conditioning, sexual abuse, ritual abuse of a Luciferian type. So that means like having sex with children, abuse of that nature. And so that was going on pretty much from the time I was 4 till 14, so about 10 years.
Yeah.
And, we see, this is funny that we're doing this right when the news is blasting all this stuff about Orlando. All those people have gone through this similar process that I went through as a child.
Yeah.
So they're just programmed. So if someone, their handler, says a certain phrase, they'll just jump into action, go do things. And when they come out of it, you ever notice how they look like they're all drugged up when they're on TV?
Yeah.
They have no awareness of what they've just did. And that's why they claim, well, I didn't do it, or yes, I did do it. You can tell there's nobody home.
Yeah, they're kind of disassociated from it.
Uh-huh.
And you came, well, when I say you came out of this, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, you said that it's only been like 2 or 3 years since you've kind of transitioned out of that life. Is that right?
Yeah. And it was when I was going through massage school that I really, and I am a licensed massage therapist, by the way, that...
Yeah, we can get into all that stuff in a little bit.
Those memories started to come out, and it wasn't just in this lifetime. Like, it was also, things I experienced back in Atlantis. It was like this big jumble.
Uh-huh.
And, it took the caring and love of a very special woman in my heart to help me sort through it all, but also, activate and realize my healing gifts and talents and what it is that I'm here to do for the world. I mean, at that point I had some sort of inkling. I didn't realize, just, what it was that I could do or what my purpose really was. I just came across her, and, it was just one of those things where the universe is like, okay, so you really need to meet this person because, there's something that's gone on in your life that just isn't right, that wasn't part of your original intended plan or path. So we're going to line you up with people who have the ability to help you realize, first of all, what's been going on and correct the situation so that you can step back into the path that you were intended to follow.
So you talk about paths, and we'll go off on a tangent here for a minute.
Sure.
Is there a part of you that thinks that, like you said, that this wasn't necessarily the path that you were intended to be on, and something kind of came in and subjugated and took over control, and you got steered to a different direction or a different path? Or do you think it's all the beautiful dynamic aspect of energy in the universe and the way that it spins, that this was in fact your path and it just had to progress in that certain way?
I'd say both.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't have one without the other, and really it's like focusing on the beauty. And okay, so maybe it didn't go quite according to what I'd originally intended, yet here I am and I'm experiencing the beauty now, and this is certainly making it a lot more effective for me to fully do what I need to do here. So both.
Yeah. Honestly, that's kind of strange and bizarre and out there and weird on one hand, but then in no way, shape, or form, do you know what I mean, am I discrediting or discounting your experience? I mean, it's not unheard of, I don't think. I don't think it's outside of the realm or the scope of what's possible. Mm-hmm. I've just never sat before anybody. That was the very last thing that I thought that you were going to come out with when I say, tell me about your life. That wasn't what I assumed or what I expected. So that's super cool. But how do you feel like that has... See, this is weird if you've only kind of been out of it for 2 or 3 years. Do you feel like you've been out of it? When I say out of it, it makes it sound like you left a cult or something like that. But do you have enough distance from that experience at this point to kind of really constructively look at it and gain from it? Or are you still kind of in the process of doing that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, you make perfect sense. And I really feel like to answer this question, it just points out to my strength of character, strength of will, and determination to overcome this, and also benefit all of humanity by resolving all of this in the way that I can do this. So, I mentioned that, my friend helped me realize my gifts. This is my gift to help heal this and bring forth the solutions to all of this in an energetic way so that it can then be manifest at the physical level.
So you see it for that aspect, but do you have enough distance from it? Meaning, has enough time lapsed to where you really are kind of able to constructively take from that experience and benefit from it?
I'd say that happened on the fly. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, okay, so this has gone on. Okay, so I can see how this has disrupted me mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and just taking baby steps at a time to rebalance and heal and reconstruct myself, but also apply that to the collective consciousness. I mean, we are all interconnected, and in doing so, it's helping others who have gone through such abuses and traumas they may not even be aware of. It's helping them come to a breakthrough point where they can become aware of it and ultimately overcome it in and of themselves.
Did you find much? I mean, my guess is, because with the limited amount of time that I've known you and things like that, my guess is you have probably found a lot of peace and comfort in the realm of spirituality and energy work and things like that in order to kind of help you through this. Because honestly, that's a life of trauma. Like, that's straight up chaos. That's shit that leaves ginormous kind of impacts on you and your vibration and your energy. So prior to kind of, like, what's your spiritual path, your spiritual journey? Have you had an experience? Like, I'm just super curious. All these thoughts are running through my head, man. I'm sorry. What do you remember? Energetic things from your past, or did you have kind of an awakening moment? Do you understand what I mean by energetic things?
Yeah. Yes. I would say there was a person that entered my life about 11 years ago that I would attribute to catalyzing me to waking up and really accepting the more spiritual aspects of this journey. All throughout my life as a teenager and all that, I was more interested in, like, even as a child, more interested in like the more esoteric type of experiences. Like, I would watch shows that dealt specifically with aliens. It wasn't like a science fiction television show. It was more like a news program, and they're talking about aliens and people getting abducted, unsolved mysteries. That was one of my favorites growing up.
Yeah.
On just different shows dealing with alternative topics like tarot and divination and Area 51, things like that when I was a teenager. And,
so there was a part of you that was kind of always drawn to this stuff.
Yes.
Did you ever have any interaction with it other than that? Like, do you know what I mean? Do you ever remember having like a really profound spiritual experience at a younger age, or going and sitting before a tarot card reader or something like that? Or was it more or less just you always had a draw?
I would say that they were sporadic. There's nothing that comes to my awareness that feels like, a profound moment. There'd be times where, I bought my first crystal, or giving my first tarot reading after I started hearing about it and researching a little bit. I would say that's been more like a gradual unfolding rather than, okay, bam, here it is. Bam, here it is.
Yeah, you have some near-death experience or some life-altering thing. I think at sixes sometimes there's people that do experience something like that where it's like, bam, and then that experience was so cataclysmic in a sense where they suddenly are awoke. And then there's other people that just kind of progressively move towards that space. Wow. This is sparking a bunch of questions in my head, but let's see. Let's jump a little bit. You're up in Idaho now.
Yes.
Tell me about what you guys are doing up at Lava and everything like that, because that was super interesting when we learned about it. We didn't get much time to talk about it, but tell me more about that.
So I live in a place called Bristol Cabins, and so we're an intentional community based upon sustainability and arts and healing. So through sustainability, we're talking about, growing gardens and raising animals and using the earth to, construct our homes and, really just bring back these skills that have fallen into disuse through mass production techniques. And, I feel like also like an intention behind all of what these large corporations want to do is just make us dependent upon them for, every aspect of our lives.
Yeah.
And so, really it's about breaking free from all that and realizing that, we as individuals are very powerful at shifting our own lives, and also about coming together as community so that we remember our strength within our ties within one another and, create something going from there with that as our foundation.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you been up there? Or first off, how long what is it called again? Bristol
Park or Bristol Cabins.
How long have they been there?
The property was first a mining operation back in the 1920s, late 1800s. And so there was a woman named Susie Bristol who opened up cabins there for the miners to stay in. And then later, she started renting them out to, just people coming through the Lava Hot Springs area to stay in for a night. And then I think it was late 80s, early 90s, the Petrin family purchased the property and raised their family there, and also reopened the cabins for people to come stay in. So it was vacant for quite a number of years, as I understand it. And about 5 years ago, 2 of the children moved from Minnesota back here and started this intentional community and reopening the cabins again. So it's been a very, very quick yet swift transformation, bringing that back online.
And how long have you been up there with them?
About 7.5 months.
Okay. You said you're a licensed massage therapist, right?
Yes.
Do you incorporate some of that there? Do you offer that as a service up there for people that are staying?
Yes, and I also offer what shamanism has activated within me as far as offering coaching services and reconstructive services energetically. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, think again, going back to Star Trek, think of it when they go into the sick bay, the doctor can diagnose things and he has all the tools there to, fix whatever's going on. I feel my skill set is very similar in that way.
Yeah. And this is what I want to get into, because so you're a massage therapist. Do you have some other specific modality that when I say absolutely hate, I don't hate, but I feel like people in the realm of spirituality and energy work and healers like that, I think we limit ourselves when we get stuck in the concept that we're just a modality, as opposed to the broad expanse of all that energy does and can do. But to make it easier to talk about, and for the listeners that are listening, do you have a modality outside of massage therapy that you incorporate into energy work?
Again, I would say that I do. Just, it's my uniqueness, what I offer as who I am, what I'm here to offer as a being of love, that I put into each and every one of my massages. Now, it could just be I'm doing just a straight up body work. I do have the capability of touching someone in a spot, like right here in their arm or whatever, and there might be some sort of energy blockage there. I can read that and help them mentally let go of that in that way. And, I'm beginning to notice a new aspect of these gifts opening up, where it's like, okay, so we started a garden this year, and before we tilled it the first time, there's like this peppermint plant growing in there, and it was probably about 5-6 inches tall, and the radius of it was probably about a foot.
Yeah.
I put it in a pot. And it's sitting right next to my door of my personal living space and massage space. And in a month's time, it's grown to about 3 feet tall and about that width as well.
Wow.
And I'm just noticing that, my gifts are literally about restoring life to, or accelerating growth wherever I focus my intention.
That's super cool. Do you think that that's just merely the plant being in your energy, or do you actually work? Because, I mean, this may seem crazy to people that are listening, but hopefully if they're listening to the podcast, they're ready for crazy, or they want to expand. But
it's already been crazy.
Do you do work on the plant specifically with that intention, or is it just the mere fact that it's in your vibration and energy, you think?
Yes to both. I would say that I don't... in my head. So there is a distinction between the heart, what the heart's awareness is, and what the head thinks that it wants. And I simply put that intention, since, it is my mind, I can do with it as I choose. I simply put the intention mentally into my heart to whatever this plant needs, my heart will emanate it. And so with that intention, it's just actively running through my energy field, that is being affected in that way. It's activating my DNA, and my DNA, the gifts contained within the DNA, are assisting that plant in growing. And I'm noticing that all around the cabin, not just, this specific plant, even though that's where my mental focus has been. It seems like, and actually it is, the plants all around the cabin, the grass is growing a lot faster than it does anywhere else.
Yeah, everything else is kind of picking up and absorbing that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's super cool. Is that essentially what you do when you work with somebody as well? Do you know what I mean? Set that intention in your heart and just bring that space for them.
Yes. I set the intention that whatever I can provide for this person as far as helping them be the best that they can be in their life, and even if it is just a one-time shot and they get relief for that one session, great. It's going to produce a lasting result for them in that, since my vibration is so unique and so very restorative and life-giving, ultimately it is going to help them in their own way, even if they're not on a conscious spiritual path, to help them find what is going to help them lead the most fulfilling life possible.
Yeah. Who are some of the people that you, whether they're people in your personal life or things like that, or people that have, great authors or teachers or spiritual kind of gurus, who do you draw inspiration from, or who do you look for? Or look towards, I suppose, for answers?
Very interesting question, because it's really just a moment-to-moment thing with me, where it's like, okay, at the moment it's J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter books. Uh-huh. I feel like she put a lot of good messages into that series, where it's like, love is so overpowering when it comes to, dealing with abuse and trauma, or the courage to face those who have victimized you, things like that.
Yeah. And
I would say that my greatest inspiration is always what is coming in through my heart. So in a sense, I hope I don't come across as conceited or anything like that. That's not my intention. Simply being honest, I feel like I am in and of myself is my greatest inspiration to drive forward and to inspire others to overcome whatever it is they have going on in their lives as well.
For sure. I don't think there's anything wrong with drawing inspiration from yourself, man. I think that's super cool. Oh God. Do you believe in the standard, normal, what's accepted when it comes to Christian belief system surrounding God and Jesus and Christianity, or where do you fall on that?
I would say I consider myself fortunate that I didn't grow up with any religious influence, whether it be Mormon or Christian, Catholic, whatever. I would say that their faith and devotion in the fact that there is a power greater than us that created us is well founded, and I do feel, Jesus is one of my homies. I do find a lot of inspiration in him, and I again just go into my own heart. And, when I feel his presence, I listen to him and ask him, how best he can. Show me what I need to know so I can live more through my heart and be the expansive love that I feel I'm here representing. Going back to what I feel inspirates me, it's going out into nature, seeing all the insects, all the plants, the trees, the water, just being out there. It's very inspiring, especially as it feels again another one of these things that is activating right now within me is ability to communicate with animals. As one example, I went on a camping trip about this time last week, and there was a crow. I heard her calling. She was quite a distance away, and I called her back. Just like ah. And we started having this verbal conversation back and forth, and she was flying closer to me just to see, who it was that was talking to her.
Yeah.
And, she just, once she found me, she just started flying overhead, calling at me, and then she went on her way. In that same moment, there was a doe that crossed the road. And normally, when people see deer, they just they bound across the road, and then they bound off, they run, and they're not seen from again. This one didn't run off. She bounded a little ways away, and she turned around and looked at me, and she was just like, how it is when, an animal shows up and humans are just like, what does it mean? What does this animal mean?
Yeah.
The feeling I was getting from her and the telepathic communication was like, she was saying the same thing. It was like, what does this mean? She was looking at my energy field, and, it's very not like many people's energy. So she's like, wait, this is a human. What's going on here?
But he looks and feels way different.
Yeah. So I was just like, okay. I said this to her aloud. I says, I love you. I have a message for your people. And so I transmitted a package of energy that contained a message for, the other deer in that area that, hey, there are people that are waking up at a very rapid rate, and soon coming time where we get to reunify with our animal brethren.
Yeah, that's super cool. So if you're going to go back 10 years in time and you're going to meet and talk to yourself and say, hey, look, this is what life, not only what life's going to be like in 10 years, but this is kind of what I'm going to be like in 10 years. Would your older self be surprised, you think? Like, oh my God, that's completely off the path of where I thought we were headed.
The funny thing is that I already do this, and my younger self kind of is just like skeptical. Yet again, through what I was talking about transmitting those energy packets, or they're called energy gifts, he gets it, and he's just like, oh, okay. So even though all this is going on, I feel like I can have the faith to keep moving forward and just keep on being happy. And as I think back to that time, it's like I do feel that there was a presence just guiding me and nudging me to go forward. And, at the time I didn't realize it was my future self doing it. Yet here we are.
That's a really convoluted, strange theory and concept. And when I say strange, not in any judgmental way, I mean, because that's the kind of shit that I like to sit around and think about, right?
Of course.
So if you think about the dynamics of, and I'm going to draw parallels to Game of Thrones because I like Game of Thrones and it's a good show, but there's this thing where there's a character in Game of Thrones that basically, for lack of a better term, he astral projects and goes forward and also goes back. Mm-hmm. And the realization he had in this one episode, as he's in the past observing something that is happening and taking place, and realizing that him being there in the form that he was currently in during that whole kind of astral projection phase influenced that incident, influenced that experience. Mm-hmm. And so it's super bizarre and it's weird and it's strange to think that, your younger self 10, 15, 20 years ago or whatever is interacting with you now, currently, kind of unbeknownst and unaware. But then how does that whole dynamic, see, I'm getting lost in the spin of my head. Like, do you think that you have the ability to go back and not change things in any way, shape, or form, but influence and shape that younger person and then come back to this point in your life and see the effects of that?
I would say that I'm experiencing like a butterfly effect of that now. Yeah. Definitely it has shifted things quite a bit. It's nothing I can really put into words. It's just like, that feeling. It's like, okay, I can feel myself gaining in power and intensity and love, and like things that used to really just send me into a tailspin and, trigger me. It's just like, okay, it's not doing that so much anymore. These past experiences that used to do that, it's just like they're nothing. It's dissipated. And, the thing of it is that, since we don't linear time doesn't exist the way that we do, it's perfectly possible. Even now, right in this moment, there's a future version of myself, 5-10 years from now doing the same thing, just keeping that intention flowing through our hearts so that, we eventually come to like this singularity and are able to transcend the need for a physical body as one example, or go back to the heavenly worlds where, each of us truly come from, things like that.
Yeah. See, then you can just go down that rabbit hole forever and a day and get dizzy at some point, because there's a lot of aspects that kind of... It's
true. Suffice it to say, I feel like we're witnessing a point in time where all of the efforts of people who do have the capability and awareness, and also the mission to go through and shift these different timelines, shift these different events so as to provide the most amount of light to be present in this now moment. I feel like we're coming to a culmination point where that work is going to see some fruit.
Yeah. What do you think that fruit's going to be like? What do you think is going to happen?
In one word, I feel like it's going to be peace.
Mm-hmm. Like world peace? Is that what you're talking about? And I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here to a certain extent, but I think it's a beautiful idealistic way of looking at the world, that somehow we're going to raise the vibration, or we're going to alter and shift things enough to change the frequency, so that, whether we want to think of it in the span of 10 years or 15 years or 100 years, that there will be peace on this planet. And there's no longer going to be things like war and hate and terrorism and all the different things that kind of plague the planet now at this point. But then I still have like a human, whether you want to think of it as the human side of me or my ego or whatever the case may be, that is really kind of challenged to think that that's possible. What do you think?
I think the key thing to keep in mind is that the world as it exists right now is all an illusion and can be dissolved and dispelled.
Mm-hmm.
And once it reaches a certain pitch energetically, just like that, all these timelines, all these different elements that go to create and power this illusion disappear, and the illusion collapses. We become unaware that anything had actually happened because it never existed in the first place, and we go on our merry way.
That's an interesting concept. That's one because if I'm not mistaken, it sounds like you're talking about like we have alternate realities in a sense that are existing, at the exact same moment in the exact same time and space right now on this planet, and at some point it will come to a head where those will fall away and like the one true existence will proceed, and that's going to be the existence and the vibration of love and peace.
That's a very concise way of putting it.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's an interesting way to look at it. What's some other crazy shit that you think, man? You got a brain full of it. I love that.
Oh, wow. That's a loaded question there. I would suggest Google searching the flat earth theory. I don't feel like we're actually being told the truth by these different, and know for a fact through experience that we're not being told the truth in any way, shape, or form by any of these government agencies, through these people claiming to be scientists, et cetera, et cetera. And, through validating this theory on my own to the point where I feel like, okay, we're definitely not on this globe spinning around a sun at this fantastic speed, going through the galaxy at another fantastic speed, and somehow managing to stay planted on a sphere. And basically what it took for me was going on top of a mountain hill and just noticing how flat everything is.
Yeah.
And mathematically speaking, if the earth is curved, we would not be able to see the base of the mountains like outside this studio that we're in. That's more than 6 miles away. It should, mathematically speaking, for every 6 miles, considering that they tell us the Earth is a sphere roughly 24,500 miles, for every 6 miles, there should be 14 feet of drop.
Yeah.
And so if we're looking across at a mountain, we shouldn't, and it's like quite a distance away, even though it appears to be like, oh, there's this curvature here. Really, it's just like our eyes are not used to focusing like binoculars at the base of that mountain. We shouldn't be able to see the base of that mountain from that distance.
So what are your thoughts and ideas when it comes to that? I mean, what's the explanation that when I say that you've got it? I think a lot of times we challenge our beliefs and our thought processes, and we might sit with something for a while and kind of let it marinate, and we might add some more stuff to it, or we might throw it out and find something new or something different. But where are you sitting in regards to that kind of whole concept and idea? Do you think that the Earth is flat?
I feel like at this point, it doesn't matter to me. It's more important for me to simply be holding a vibration of love and peace and what I'd like to see happen, so that we're better able to come together as a community. I feel like if I'm going to focus on this flat earth theory, it introduces a certain element of confusion and also of controversy. And, it's fine to explore different theories, different possibilities. Yet at the end of the day, you're still focusing on confusion, and that's not an energy that I want to focus on.
Yeah, you're still kind of distracting yourself from what you really should be focusing on.
Exactly.
So that's a beautiful lead in. Tell me what you should really be focused on in your mind, like not just what you do, but in people in general. What do you think is a good path for people to direct their attention and their focus and their energy on?
I would never should on anybody. I feel like my recommendation is simply to focus on what brings you joy, what brings you happiness, what makes you feel the most passionate and expressive, what helps you feel productive and also responsible. That's one of the things that I really appreciated from my shamanic training was, really learning what responsibility is. And it's really simple. Responsibility is simply following what your heart feels that you get to do or what you want to do. So a heart-based desire, and going with that with all of your heart. Anything else that, society tells us is responsibility, that's not what pure responsibility is all about. Doing things that helps you feel connected with yourself or with one another or with Mother Nature or with Father Sky, with whoever it is that, if you're capable of connecting with the spirit world, whoever you feel connected with this, things like that can help you bring in those connections and keep it purely in love and trust. That would be my recommendation.
So what brings Om joy?
Playing in water.
You a big fan of water?
I love water.
Yeah.
Meeting new people like you.
What else? What else do you like to do? Because I think I like that you hit on that. I think that's a really important thing. I'll talk to people all the time, whether it's when we're working with clients or just my friends and family. I tell my kids this all the time, but it's like you have to find what in life brings you joy, recognize what that feeling is, because it's very much a heart-centered kind of freedom and joy inside, and recognize that feeling and then just seek that feeling out. And it doesn't matter in what way, shape, or form that is, but do whatever it causes that feeling. And once you find it, do more of that.
Exactly.
So what is some of the things that bring that feeling for you?
As you're talking about that, what I do professionally as a massage therapist, and also I'm not even sure what to refer to myself as. I just feel like it's just me being myself. So, just talking with people either, through conversation or, they've actually set up a healing consultation with me and just helping them unravel whatever it is that's bothering them so they can shine the brightest they possibly can and keep rolling forward with that catalytic reaction.
Yeah.
And, I feel like it's coming to a point where my life is coming to a shift point. It's like, yes, I'm doing this now, yet whatever the bigger picture role that our heavenly parents had envisioned for me, I feel like, doing this radio show in and of itself is an example of the unfoldment of their plan for me, for my life to find its fullest and deepest expression.
That's cool. What's cool with the podcast is we have people that are like every week I see online because we can track and blah, 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 and look at it. So there's going to be somebody in New Zealand that listens to this and hears your voice, somebody in Colombia, Romania, Russia, all these different places where we're starting to be downloaded. And I think that's just amazing because that was the whole intention behind it. So some guy sitting somewhere, some lady, some person sitting on a beach somewhere is going to be listening to Om, and the words that you're saying I think are going to resonate with a lot of people. What did you do before all of this? First off, how old are you? That's what I'm trying to think too.
How old do you think?
See, now you put me on the spot. Luckily, I know you're not going to be offended in any way, shape, or form. But if I had to guess, you're probably, I would say like early 30s.
I'm tapping the tip of my nose. He got it.
So what did you do before this?
Well,
did you spend any certain amount of time in a specific career or field or job, or did you kind of just work a bunch of different things?
Well, as I said earlier, I felt like a lot of the earlier part of my life, it was just like this daze, like, a drugged up daze and not really able to focus or connect on anything. So I basically just floated from job to job. I worked at Walmart. I worked at, all these different call centers. I worked up at University Hospital for a little bit. That was actually a really enjoyable job. I got to serve the inpatients their meals, and, I met some really cool people doing that.
I bet. Where do you see yourself? And I know that it's a hard question to answer, but where do you see yourself in like 5 years? If you could map it out, if you could lay it out, and we're taking outside of the consideration of we're just letting the universe spin and we're not concerned with controlling it or anything like that.
Of course.
What would you like to be doing in 5 years?
Oh, I'm actually just looking to the future now and seeing what I'm seeing. I'm just seeing myself in a lot of different places all over the world. And it's like, I would describe it as like ceremony, and also, talking with people. It's not like a large crowd, but there are people listening to me. Mm-hmm. It's feeling like, they're just getting what they need to be empowered at that point in their journeys and to go forth and, be the best they can be in their own communities. Because it feels like, globally, there's been a lot that's happened that's really shifted the paradigm of how we're living. And so instead of like centralized power structures, it's like everything, all of that feels like it's fragmenting and dissolving.
Yeah.
And And so our communities are reforming, our tribes are reforming. And so I'm just going to these different places and giving them hope and inspiration so they can, go back to their own communities and be like, okay, this is, I just saw this really awesome guy, I've been hearing a lot about him, and, he said this to help us out. And, I feel so empowered that we can actually accomplish this together. So it's like bringing like different bits of these energy that has been activated within these people from them listening to my voice. My voice is key in this, and helping them realize their own great worth, and that they can in turn activate the worth within those that they are around.
Yeah, that's a hell of a plan for your 5 years. I like that a lot.
I'm not planning this. This is just universal flow.
Yeah. You used a word that I want to go back on, because one of the things that I like to do with the podcast is think that we're not just kind of spreading good energy and love and vibes and all that kind of stuff, but also educating people to a certain extent in the realm of spirituality and all the different things. So you used this term ceremony.
Uh-huh.
I know exactly what you're talking about, but somebody out there may not understand in the context of what you're talking about. So do the best that you can. I'm going to challenge you a little bit to describe what that means, what the word ceremony means in relation to kind of spirituality and all of these different things.
For me, the word ceremony is about bringing in all sorts of different elements in a sacred way with intention as to sanctify and amplify the pure energy that comes within a pure intention. So as one example of this, so I mentioned that I went on a camping trip last week,
Mm-hmm.
and its sole purpose was to go perform ceremony for letting go of my past and fully just stepping into that vibration of love.
Yeah.
So, there's a pure intention in that. So I simply called upon all those that resonate with my heart, who operate on that frequency, to come in and assist me with that process. And so, going to what I was seeing in my immediate future in 5 years, it's like bringing in all these different people from different communities so they can activate their own pure intentions for what they like to create in their own communities, and assisting them in keeping that in a sacred way, keeping that in a sacred space.
Yeah.
So another aspect of ceremony, from my perspective, is that it's also a way that we can purely and in truth connect with our source and with the collective consciousness forms that represent a love-based reality.
That's a very, very good description of it, I think. And I think also, too, I would add, ceremony sometimes, or a lot of times, it's specific to the individual participating in it. And so it can look and feel, and there's not one wrong or right way to do it. It's always individualized. But go ahead. You had something else that you wanted to add?
And another important element of a ceremony is also including your ancestors. Our DNA literally is everything when it comes to how we operate and how we are interconnected. It is a consciousness form, a wave rather than a particle. And, without our ancestors, without acknowledging that, then we become lost. And, that's another aspect of what I'm here to do, is to help humanity remember or access the records of it, because there is a storehouse of records, a library of records in South America that has everything that was attempted to be destroyed or otherwise taken out of its sacred purity. That it is part of my mission to help it become manifest and come back into the awareness of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's through the ancestors that we're able to keep those connections to that pure information of who we are through our lineages. And, going back to what was very first talked about, that was the intent behind having me be raised in another family, because they wanted to erase any possibility that I would be able to connect with that that pure knowledge that my lineage, my ancestry had been able to tap into and keep in a pure space.
So see, this brings up something, and this is really, like, I love talking to you because these are all really interesting things. Because we talked a little bit earlier about time and time not being linear in fashion, and everybody kind of has their own viewpoint on the way that time works and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But where do you, like, how do you wrap your mind around the concept and the idea? Because I understand what you're saying, and not just bringing forth the energy of your ancestors and paying homage and all those kind of different things. But how do you wrap your mind around the concept of that? Because if time isn't linear, meaning, you know, the past, present, future, it kind of doesn't function and work that way, then it doesn't make sense to me when I think about it in that regards, where you're bringing in, you know, your ancestors into a space, but yet they're not your ancestors. Because, I mean, do they still exist? Are they existing in the same time and space that we are, and we're all just moving in conjunction? Or is there a past, or is there a future?
Well, I feel like for the purposes of talking about genetics and lineages and all that, there would be an ancestor who existed before, and I'm doing the low quotations hand mark, before us. And so, you know, whatever it is that they experienced in their lifetime, whatever it is that they're doing to contribute to the full manifestation of light returning to this world, that is then kept and stored within our DNA, and then it's passed on through having children. And so going to the full question about, so how does this all really work out? Okay, so I feel like time is actually a singularity, where we could step into a moment that would appear to be the past, or step into a moment that appears to be the future at will. And so it's like, yes, you're correct there, where it's like all these ancestors are existing simultaneously with us, yet as far as linear time is concerned, and since, you know, that is something that affects us to whatever extent that it does, the past, present, future model still applies here in this world. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It makes sense on one hand, and then on the other hand, it gets way lost out there in the cosmos in my brain space. But what are some of the things when you work with clients, or when you meet people and you start talking to them about different things, what have you found are some of the things that kind of pop up generally where they, because I wanted you to explain the word ceremony in the context of spirituality and energy and things like that. What are some of those other things that you've found that sometimes people aren't aware of, or that, when I say you have to educate them, and it's not that people move through life, you know, null and dumb and stupid or anything like that, but that you kind of have to explain to them?
Well, the thing of it is that unless I'm like directly engaged in the question, like, you know, how you're interviewing me now, I really don't have much to say. Not because, you know, I don't feel like I have a contribution. It's just that, you know, what I have to say, most people aren't ready to hear. And a lot of the times, people are in denial about whatever abuse and traumas they may have experienced in their past. And so for me to really be effective, there has to be a certain openness to be discussing those topics.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm one of those souls that, you know, I don't really do well with the small talk. It's like, you know, I really just want to have like deep conversations with everybody that I meet. And it does happen for sure. Usually I just sit back and observe, and if they're talking about some problem that they're having, it's just like, sometimes I'll have like a channel from spirit come in, just like, just offer them some sort of solution, or otherwise some hope and inspiration that they can make it through that particular situation. For the most part, it's just like, I just enjoy myself and enjoy, observing people being themselves.
Yeah. Do you find common things that, I know everybody is individualized and everybody is their own kind of unique person, but do you find that there are some common threads throughout people's kind of pain and suffering, and some of the ways that it kind of blocks and gets held up in their energy?
That they don't know really what to do with it, or that there is a solution for it. I mean, I had to go through that myself when, it really became apparent, all these things that had happened in my past, that, all this stuff can be healed. I'm living proof of that. And until they're really ready, okay, I don't know what's going on, please help me, until they start asking those questions of themselves, it's unlikely that they would attract me into their space to be that voice that they need to hear.
Yeah. I think the universe does kind of work that way. I mean, you talked about somebody coming into your life, what was it, like 10 or 11 years ago, that kind of brought in a whole bunch of energy into your space and kind of helped you expand and become aware. And I think that is kind of the way that the universe works. There's so many things that drive me nuts, not in a bad way, just in a, man, we just really have to expand outside of some of these things. But that whole thing where it's like, when the student is ready, then the teacher will appear. And I mean, that's a cute bumper sticker, but I think that there's stuff much deeper to that. So let's talk a little bit about, what do you find is most challenging for you, like in your space of kind of staying connected and staying in the space of your own personal spirituality and balance?
So through my shamanic path, it was like a classroom. So it was done in Salt Lake City through a woman who is of Peruvian Incan descent, yet she lives up in Park City and chose to do all of the training as in a classroom setting. And there were some people in the class that just really were not pure in their heart, and actually quite the opposite. And so, when we would do the homework, which would mean, we'd be energetically working in somebody else's spaces and, just telling what we see and what the light beings are, channeling what the light beings are saying, things like that. They did some really unscrupulous things that set me back quite a bit. That's the best way I can put it.
Yeah.
And, every now and then, even though I'm largely past those experiences and those tamperings, every now and then something will pop up where, one of these people will just pop into my awareness and, keep trying to do it. And it's like, yeah, I got bigger and better things to do, and I'm just going to focus on that. And so I would say that would be one impediment. Just, instead of it being like, an outright tampering, it's now just like, okay, just a momentary shift of focus, a fluctuation, and into a place I really don't want to be, and it really has nothing to do with me anyway.
Yeah. Do you ever have a fear that that you're going to go back, meaning like you're going to kind of revert back to the not the normal way, but to the way that you kind of moved through life prior to this experience of kind of finding spirituality and energy in the universe? Or do you ever worry that you're going to go back? Like, is that a fear that you carry?
That does come up every now and then, yes. And
like, is there an aspect of you that just kind of thinks that you're living out there in Never Land in your own head and spinning all of these things up? And I mean, the reality is science may be right, and the world is a spinning planet in the universe, and we're going around the sun at X number of miles an hour. And do you ever worry that you're going to go backwards in your thinking or kind of fall back into some old behaviors?
Well, again, yes, it does coming up every now and then, and I just look at it like me being thorough, being very complete with that level of whatever it is I'm working through. As far as being outright fearful of it, I can't say that I felt that in quite a few years.
Good. I had another question that just popped into my head too, because I'm thinking about your story and your past and your experiences and what you've been through.
Mm-hmm.
How has that affected your relationships, you think, like now as an adult and things? Like, do you find it challenging and difficult to be in a relationship? Because, I mean, the fact is, that's obviously going to bring up trust issues and all sorts of different things. And if you experience sexual abuse as a child and all these kind of different things, how do you find that you manage relationships?
That's probably where I'm still working on that particular aspect and rebuilding my ability to be intimate. And intimacy isn't just like, physical intimacy. It is a really far broader subject than, most would give it that sort of thought.
Yeah, it's a big spectrum when it comes to intimacy.
And part of that is, forming relationships. And, it really hasn't been a simple thing for me through my life. It's like, for the longest time, like having one or two friends was like a miracle. It's like it wasn't easy even just to keep those friends. Seeing as they were also going through the same thing, they were probably thinking the same thing. It's just like I don't really have a lot of people they can trust. Yet he keeps coming back, and he treats me, generally speaking, the way that I like to be treated or how I'm used to being treated.
Yeah.
Yet he's not threatening me in any way. So that's really how some of my closest friendships I have now have developed. As far as the present moment, I'm just like not putting like a conscious thought into forming the relationships. I'm just like, okay, this is something that's just going to happen through natural attraction and through it just being the right time. So I'm just going to focus more on my heart and in repairing those parts of my heart that have been damaged through all these different experiences. And as my heart is, really, really strong, really stable right now. I'm feeling it right now. It's like, and the thing of it is like, I'm not really concerned about it anymore. What is concerning to me is just really just amounting to, okay, if I really tied up all the loose ends, am I done here? And ready to really just allow the healing to fully form and take place. Uh-huh. And it's like it's coming up quickly. It's just like just like many different things. It's just like it just feels like we're coming as a collective to a culmination point. And really it's just like having patience and rebuilding patience and just being that area of patience.
Do you think that this culmination of society and the collective and all of that kind of stuff, the thing that you kind of keep referencing and talking about, do you feel like that is something that we are on the cusp of?
I think that we're actually a few years into that process. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that, there is so much that has to be shifted and so much that has to be done that, we're coming to this point where it's like people are becoming receptive to the concept of community, of unity, and, other concepts along those lines. And it's also that, people who on a spirit level, decide to go into these deep places and clear that out so that others wouldn't have to. Our work is coming to its completion point as well, where it's kind of like a rejuvenation phase right now, kind of like getting ready for the storm. Does that make sense?
Do you think that it's something that you're going to see in your lifetime?
Without a doubt.
You think so? See, I don't know, man. I'm kind of on the fence. I think that there's times that I'll wake up and I'll move through the day and I'll kind of move through my week or whatever with just such positivity and such happiness and joy and light and seeing all the beautiful things in the world. And then the next week will be full of shit, where it's like you just see society sometimes for the way that it is and the way that people move through life, and a lot has to change. But I don't think, this is another thing too, I don't think it's change. I think it's evolution. I think a lot has to evolve. And I think that it is evolving, and I think that it is changing. And I'd like to see it in my lifetime. I'd like to see the disillusion of war and terrorism and hate, and really people coming at things from a different point of view. And I think what's happening is I think that all of those things, when it comes to kind of negative energy, I think all of those things are coming to a peak. I think they're kind of, it's like a crescendo. They're building and they're building and they're building, and it seems like there's more and more happening, and they're more and more severe in a sense. But I think that's because they're coming to a peak where they're going to suddenly shift and drop and change. That's what I think's happening.
Is it possible that it's also coming up because people are ready to deal with these issues collectively and also within themselves, and that's just a natural reaction through whatever influences the universe presents to us?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's, I think when you start to expand your mind outside of the concepts of what society normally thinks or describes or explains away things as, and just look for not just necessarily answers, but different ideas. I think that any of the things that we've been talking about really are just our own individualized perspectives. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sitting here preaching from my pulpit, and I know that you're not either. It's not like we're trying to change the minds of anybody out there. It's all about kind of planting seeds and giving people the opportunity to look at and think about things just simply in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes that's all that has to happen, is really people bringing awareness to that whole concept and idea of, I'm going to think about something differently.
Mm-hmm.
And it's as simple as that.
Well, it reminds me of something that has resonated with me throughout the years, and it's like the best teachers make the best students, yet the best teachers and the best students teach/learn through example.
Yeah. I think we always, as children, we just learn by example. We learn by watching people. We learn by watching our parents, or, absorbing what's happening to us from the environment that we're in, the energy that we're in as children. And I think it's a misnomer to think that when we grow up as adults that we somehow change and that we don't learn that way. I think we're always learning that way. I think we just learn and absorb the energy that we're surrounded by. And on a very basic level, like you can watch somebody sweep a floor. And after watching that person sweep a floor so many times, you now know how to sweep a floor.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas opposed to never seeing anybody sweep a floor, somebody hands you a broom, you're not going to really know what to do with it.
Bingo.
And so I love that idea and that concept that I'm just kind of always learning and absorbing and kind of moving through life that way, where I'm excited to kind of expand and evolve. But I want to give you the opportunity, throw out the contact information for Bristol Cabins so people can find that.
So you can find Bristol Cabins at bristolcabins.org, and my own personal website at anintegratedspirits.com.
And then do you have anything on Facebook? Do you have a Facebook page for the stuff that you do?
Yeah, I do have a Facebook fan page. It is OMMTARO McManus, MCMANUS. And that's my professional page. And, if you want to, you can also just look up Om McManus on Facebook and find my personal page. Either work.
Yeah, but that's the best way to get a hold of you and contact you and reach out.
Yes.
Do you have anything coming up this month? Not necessarily this month, but this summer or anything like that you're going to be participating in or doing? Or do you guys have any big things planned up at the cabins?
In October, having a festival like an end of year festival produced by the lovely Anna Sierra, and yeah, that will be like the first couple weeks of October. And stay tuned to my Facebook. I'll have more details about that as that evolves.
Yeah, I hope that's because Anna was on the podcast and she talked about that, wanting to do a retreat or do a festival and kind of an event up there. So I'm hoping that's what you're talking about, because I've talked to Anna about that, and that's going to be nice. Yeah, that's cool. That's super sweet. That'll be fun. Well, thank you so much, Om. I really, really appreciate you taking the time and coming out. It's super interesting guy, and I didn't quite know what to expect, but I knew something was going to happen, and something definitely did happen, and I'm excited. So thank you so much.
It's my pleasure, brother.
Everybody just got done listening to the wonderful Om McManus on the Energy is Love podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. He's super interesting guy. So listen and subscribe and all that kind of good stuff. But take some of these concepts and ideas and throw them out there in your head and expand your mind and just think about something different. Go out after you're done listening to this. Look at something and shift it and change it and look at it from a different perspective. But thank you, everybody. And everybody go out and have a beautiful, wonderful day.
We love you.
Yes, we do. We definitely love you.
It is my mind. I can do with it as I choose. My vibration is so unique. Jesus is one of my homies.